The diplomatic vessel Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and Commander Lisa Grant felt her stomach tighten at the sight before her. The orbital station was massive beyond anything she had ever seen. It stretched across the void of space like a city made of crystal and light, spinning slowly against the backdrop of a purple nebula. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. This was the heart of the collective, the most powerful civilization in the known galaxy. Lisa stood on the bridge of her ship and tried to keep her face calm. She was 43 years old and had commanded vessels for 15 years. She had faced pirates, navigated asteroid fields, and survived a reactor breach that killed half her crew. But nothing had prepared her for this moment. Humanity was about to meet its first major galactic power, and she was the one responsible for making a good impression. Cole stood at her right side. He was her security chief, a tall man with gray hair and watchful eyes. He had been a soldier before he joined the diplomatic service, and he still carried himself like one. His hand rested near his sidearm out of habit, though Lisa knew weapons would be useless against a species that could read and control minds. Arya Santos stood at her left. She was younger than both of them, barely 30, but she had spent her entire adult life studying alien cultures. She was the one who had briefed them during the long journey here. They were telepaths. They had dominated galactic politics for over 10,000 years. Every species that entered their sphere of influence eventually became their servants, guided by subtle mental manipulation toward decisions that benefited the collective. Maria had warned them that they would try the same thing with humanity. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect English, though Lisa knew they had only learned her language a few months ago when humanity first made contact. The voice was smooth and welcoming. It invited them to dock at Platform 7 and prepare for the greeting ceremony. Lisa gave the order and the Horizon's Edge moved forward. She watched the station grow larger in the viewing port and felt her heart beat faster. Everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. The docking was smooth. The airlock opened and Lisa led her small delegation into the station. The interior was even more impressive than the exterior. The walls were made of something that looked like glass but felt warm to the touch. Light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The air smelled faintly of flowers, though Lisa could not identify the type. A group waited for them at the end of the corridor. Lisa had seen images during her briefing, but the real thing was different. They were tall and slender, with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to shift color as they moved. They wore robes of silver and white that flowed around them like water. Their faces were beautiful in a way that felt almost artificial, too perfect and too calm. The one in front stepped forward. He was taller than the others, and his robes were trimmed with gold. When he spoke, his voice was the same one Lisa had heard over the communication system. "I am High Ambassador of the Collective. Welcome to our home, Commander Grant. We are honored by your presence." Lisa bowed her head slightly. Maria had taught her the proper greeting. "Thank you, High Ambassador. Humanity is grateful for this opportunity to meet your people." Smiled. It was a warm smile, but Lisa noticed it did not reach his eyes. Those strange shifting eyes studied her with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. She felt like a specimen under examination. "We have prepared quarters for you and your companions," said. "But first, there is a matter of tradition. All new species who come to us must participate in the communion. It is a telepathic ritual that establishes trust and transparency between our peoples. Through the communion, we share our thoughts and intentions openly. It ensures that there can be no misunderstanding or deception between us." Lisa felt tense beside her. They had discussed this possibility. Maria had warned them that they might try to establish a telepathic link. The question was whether they could refuse without causing offense. "What does the communion involve?" Lisa asked carefully. "It is simple and painless," said. "I will touch your temple and our minds will connect briefly. I will share the essence of the collective with you, and you will share your intentions with me. It lasts only a moment. Every species that has joined our community has found the experience enlightening." Lisa looked at Maria, who gave a tiny nod. They had no real choice. Refusing would be seen as an admission that humanity had something to hide. It would destroy any chance of a positive relationship before it even began. "I accept," Lisa said. "I will participate in the communion on behalf of humanity." Smile widened. "Excellent. Please follow me to the communion chamber." They walked through winding corridors that all looked the same to Lisa. She tried to memorize the route but gave up after the fifth turn. Was doing the same thing, she knew. Old habits died hard for soldiers. The communion chamber was a vast circular room with a domed ceiling made of crystal. Light filtered through in shifting patterns that reminded Lisa of sunlight through water. Dozens of stood around the edges of the room, their eyes closed, their faces peaceful. Lisa realized they were all telepaths, all connected to each other, all waiting to witness what was about to happen. Led her to the center of the room, and Maria were stopped at the entrance by guards who were polite but firm. Lisa was alone. "Do not be afraid," said softly. "The communion is a gift. Through it, you will understand us as no outsider ever has, and we will understand you." Lisa took a deep breath. She thought about her father who had died when she was 12. He had been a pilot, lost in a training accident, and she had joined the service to honor his memory. She thought about her mother who had raised her alone and never complained. She thought about her nephew, born just last year, who she had held in her arms and promised to protect. She thought about every moment of joy and pain that had made her who she was. "I am ready," she said. Reached out. His fingers were cool against her temple. His eyes locked with hers, and she saw something in them that might have been anticipation or might have been hunger. Then the connection began. For Lisa it felt like nothing more than a gentle pressure at the edge of her thoughts, a tickle almost. She waited for something more, some great revelation or flood of alien knowledge, but before anything else could happen, his eyes went wide. His mouth opened, and he screamed. It was not a sound Lisa had expected from such a calm and controlled being. It was raw and primal and filled with something that sounded like terror. His hand jerked away from her temple, his body convulsed, and then he collapsed to the floor, unconscious. The chamber erupted into chaos. The telepaths around the edges cried out and stumbled, clutching their heads. Guards rushed forward, forced his way through to reach Lisa, his weapon drawn. Maria was shouting something about diplomatic immunity. Lisa stood in the center of it all, untouched and unharmed, staring down at the fallen High Ambassador. She had no idea what had just happened. She only knew that everything had changed. The moment's mind touched Lisa's consciousness. He expected the familiar sensation of merging. He had performed the communion thousands of times over his long life. He had touched the minds of warriors and poets, scientists and rulers, beings from 100 different worlds. Every mind had its own flavor, its own texture, but all of them had been manageable. All of them had opened to him like flowers opening to sunlight. The human mind was not a flower, it was an ocean. In the first instant of contact, was overwhelmed by sensation. It crashed into him like a wave, massive and unstoppable. He felt everything the human woman had ever felt, compressed into a single moment of impossible intensity. He saw her as a child, standing at a grave in the rain, watching a wooden box sink into the earth. Her father was inside that box. She was 12 years old and she did not understand why the universe had taken him from her. The grief was enormous, a black hole that threatened to swallow everything. But she did not collapse into it. She stood straight and held her mother's hand and made a silent promise to be strong. Tried to pull away but could not. The memories kept coming. He saw her as a young woman, pushing herself through training that broke others around her. Her muscles screamed and her lungs burned and every part of her body begged her to quit. But she refused. There was a fire inside her that would not be extinguished. She would become a pilot like her father. She would honor his memory by reaching the stars he had loved so much. He felt her first heartbreak, a young man who had promised forever and then disappeared without explanation. The pain was sharp and deep, like a knife between her ribs, but she did not let it destroy her. She packed it away in some corner of her heart and continued forward. She always continued forward. He experienced her first command, the weight of responsibility settling onto her shoulders like a physical burden. Lives depended on her decisions. She lay awake at night wondering if she was good enough, smart enough, strong enough. The doubt was constant, gnawing at her from within, but she faced it every day and refused to let it win. He saw the reactor breach, alarms screaming, fire and chaos, her crew dying around her while she fought to save the ship. The survivors looked to her for strength, so she gave them strength, even though inside she was breaking into pieces. She held herself together through pure will until the rescue ships arrived. Only then, alone in her quarters, did she allow herself to cry. He felt her hold her nephew for the first time. The baby was so small, so fragile, so precious. Love flooded through her, fierce and protective. She would die for this child. She would kill for this child. The intensity of it was staggering. and through it all, beneath it all, felt something he had never encountered before. Every emotion existed at full strength all the time. The grief did not fade. The love did not diminish. The fear, the hope, the anger, the joy, they were all present simultaneously, layered on top of each other in impossible complexity. The human carried the complete weight of her entire emotional existence inside her single mind. For this was incomprehensible. They had evolved as telepaths from the very beginning. They shared everything. When one of them felt pain, that pain was distributed across the collective, diluted among billions of minds until it became a whisper. No single ever bore the full burden of intense emotion alone. Their minds were calm pools, peaceful and still. This human mind was a storm, and was drowning in it. He screamed, he could not help it. The sound tore from his throat without his permission. His body collapsed, overwhelmed by sensations it was never designed to process. Darkness took him. When the other telepaths in the chamber tried to sense what had happened, they caught only echoes. But even those echoes were enough to make them recoil in horror. They stumbled backward, clutching their heads, trying to close their minds against the impossible intensity that radiated from the fallen High Ambassador. Guards surrounded the humans immediately. Had his weapon drawn, his body positioned between Lisa and any threat. Maria was speaking rapidly, invoking diplomatic protocols demanding that they not be harmed. But the guards were not advancing. They were frozen in place, uncertain what to do. They had never seen a High Ambassador fall. They had never witnessed anything like this. Lisa stood in the center of it all, confused and frightened. From her perspective, she had felt almost nothing. A brief pressure at the edge of her thoughts, a momentary tickle, and then had collapsed. She did not understand what had happened. She only knew that she had somehow hurt him without meaning to. Medics rushed into the chamber and surrounded. They lifted him carefully and carried him away. His eyes were still closed, his face pale and twisted with pain. The other telepaths followed, giving Lisa and her team a wide space, as if they were afraid to get too close. A senior official approached them. His face was hard to read, but Lisa thought she saw fear in his shifting eyes. "You will be confined to quarters until we understand what has happened," he said. His voice was not hostile, but it was not friendly either. "You will not be harmed. You have our word, but you must remain isolated until the High Ambassador recovers and can explain." Started to protest, but Lisa put a hand on his arm. "We understand," she said. "We will cooperate fully. Please believe that we did not intend to hurt anyone." The official studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded and gestured for them to follow. Their quarters were comfortable but clearly designed for containment. There was only one door and no windows. Swept the room for surveillance devices and found at least 3. Maria began composing a report on her personal device, documenting everything that had happened while it was still fresh in her mind. Lisa sat on the edge of a bed and tried to process the situation. An hour ago, she had been hopeful about humanity's future in the galaxy. Now she was a prisoner, accused of harming one of the most powerful beings in known space, and she still did not know how or why. A knock came at the door. Moved to block it, but the door opened before he could reach it. A young woman stood in the entrance. She was smaller than the others Lisa had seen, and her eyes were wide with curiosity rather than fear. "My name is," she said. "I am a researcher. I study alien minds. I have studied hundreds of species across 1,000 years." She paused and looked directly at Lisa. "I have never encountered anything like you. I need to understand what you are. Will you speak with me?" Lisa looked at who shook his head. She looked at Maria, who shrugged. Then she looked back at the young woman with the curious eyes. "Yes," Lisa said. "I will speak with you, because I need to understand what happened just as much as you do." Stepped into the room, and the door closed behind her. The real conversation was about to begin. Sat across from Lisa and studied her with those strange shifting eyes. The young researcher had brought no equipment, no devices, nothing to record the conversation. She simply sat and watched and waited. "Before I explain what happened to High Ambassador," said, "I need you to understand something about my people. We evolved as telepaths. From the very beginning of our existence, we have been connected to each other. When a child is born, its mind immediately links with its mother, its family, its community. We are never alone. We share everything." Lisa nodded slowly. Maria had told her some of this during the journey, but hearing it from her was different. "When we feel pain," continued, "that pain is distributed across the collective. Millions of minds share the burden, and so it becomes light enough to bear. When we feel joy, that joy is by being shared. Our emotions are gentle things, soft and diffuse, like mist spreading across a valley. That sounds peaceful, Lisa said. It is. We have no concept of emotional isolation. We cannot imagine what it would be like to carry our feelings alone, to have no one to share the weight with. The very idea is terrifying to us. Leaned forward, her expression intense. When touched your mind, he expected to find something similar to what he had always found. A gentle consciousness, open and calm, easy to read and easy to influence. Instead, he found something completely different. He found a mind that carries its entire emotional existence alone. Every feeling you have ever felt, still present, still powerful, compressed into a single consciousness. The sheer density of your emotional experience overwhelmed him. Lisa tried to understand. You mean he felt everything I feel? He felt a fraction of it, and that fraction nearly destroyed him. Your mind is not a pool, Commander Grant. It is an ocean in a constant storm. For a telepath, touching your mind is like trying to drink from a waterfall. It is too much, too intense, too overwhelming to process. Spoke for the first time. So humans are dangerous to your people just by existing. Turned to look at him. Yes, direct telepathic contact with a human consciousness can cause severe trauma to a mind. We had no warning. We had no idea such minds could exist. You are unlike anything we have ever encountered. There was a long silence. Lisa felt the weight of what she was hearing. She had hurt without meaning to, simply by being herself. There is something else you should know, said. Her voice dropped lower, as if she was afraid of being overheard. The collective has dominated galactic politics for 10,000 years. We have brought hundreds of species under our influence. We present ourselves as benevolent guides, as wise mentors helping younger civilizations find their way. But that is not the whole truth, Maria said. It was not a question. Shook her head. We use our telepathy to influence other species. Subtle manipulations, gentle nudges, thoughts planted so delicately that the subjects believe they are their own. Over time, the species we contact become dependent on us, aligned with our interests, loyal to our goals. They do not realize they are being controlled because the control feels natural. Lisa felt cold. That was what you intended to do to humanity. Yes, the communion ritual is how it begins, was going to establish a link with you and plant the seeds of influence. Within a generation, humanity would have become another servant race of the collective, believing all the while that you had chosen this path freely. His hand moved toward his weapon, and now? Now we cannot. We cannot influence human minds because we cannot touch them. The moment we try, we are overwhelmed. Your emotions are too strong, your thoughts too intense. You are immune to our manipulation in a way that no species has ever been before. Lisa stood and walked to the wall. She pressed her palm against the warm glass-like surface and tried to organize her thoughts. Everything had changed. They were not the benevolent guides they pretended to be. They were controllers, manipulators, building an empire through telepathic domination. And humanity had accidentally discovered their secret simply by having minds that were too powerful to control. What happens now? She asked without turning around. Your people must see us as a threat. Some do, admitted. There are factions calling for your immediate expulsion from our space. Others want to study you to find a way to overcome your mental defenses. But there is another group, smaller but growing. They see you as something else entirely. What do they see us as? Allies, true allies. For 10,000 years, they have had servants and subjects, but never equals. Every relationship we have is built on manipulation, whether the other party knows it or not. We have forgotten what it means to have genuine partners who stand beside us by choice. Some of my people believe that humanity could be that partner. A species we cannot control, who will tell us truth even when it is uncomfortable, who will work with us because they want to and not because we have shaped their minds to want it. Lisa turned back to face. And what do you believe? The young researcher was quiet for a moment. I believe that saw something in your mind beyond the overwhelming emotions. I believe he saw beauty there, and courage, and a kind of strength that we have never known. I believe that when he recovers, he will tell the collective that humanity is not a threat to be eliminated or a puzzle to be solved. He will tell them that you are something new and valuable and worth understanding. How can you know that? Because I caught an echo of what he experienced. Just a fragment, just a glimpse, but it was enough. Your species carries oceans inside your skulls, Commander Grant. Oceans of grief and love and hope and fear, all churning together, all feeding into each other. It should break you. It should drive you mad. But instead, you walk and talk and laugh and cry and somehow keep moving forward. You carry weight that would crush us and you call it normal. Stood and moved toward the door. The governing council will summon you tomorrow. They will decide humanity's fate. Has asked to speak before the decision is made. I believe he will speak in your favor. Why would he do that? Lisa asked. After what happened? Paused at the door and looked back. Because he touched your mind, Commander. He experienced what it means to be human even for a fraction of a second, and I think it changed him. She opened the door. Rest now. Tomorrow will be difficult. The door closed behind her. Lisa looked at and Maria. They were silent, processing everything they had learned. Finally spoke. If what she said is true, we have a chance here. A chance to be something more than another conquered species. Maria nodded. But it depends on what says to the council, and we hurt him badly. He has every reason to be angry, to want revenge. Lisa sat back down on the bed. She thought about her father, about grief, about carrying weight alone. She thought about the storm inside her own mind, the storm that had overwhelmed one of the most powerful telepaths in the galaxy. We wait, she said. We wait and we hope. It is all we can do. Outside, somewhere in the vast crystal station, was waking from unconscious darkness, with the memory of a human soul still burning in his thoughts. The meeting chamber was smaller than Lisa expected. She had imagined something grand and formal, filled with guards and observers. Instead, she found a quiet room with soft lighting and 2 chairs facing each other. Sat in one of them. He looked different from before, weaker somehow, diminished. His pale blue skin had a grayish tint, and his shifting eyes moved more slowly. He wore simple robes without the gold trim of his office. When Lisa entered, he raised a hand to stop the guards from following her. "Leave us," he said. His voice was still smooth, but there was something new in it, something that might have been humility. The guards hesitated. One of them spoke quietly. "High Ambassador, the Council advises against direct contact with the human. Your recovery is not complete." "I am aware of what the Council advises. Leave us." They left, the door closed. Lisa and were alone. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Lisa stood near the entrance, uncertain whether to sit or remain standing, studied her with those strange eyes, and she wondered what he saw. "Please," he said finally, gesturing to the empty chair. "Sit with me." Lisa crossed the room and sat. The chairs were closer together than she would have liked. She could see the fine details of his alien face, the small movements of his features that she could not interpret. "I wanted to apologize," said. Lisa blinked. "You wanted to apologize. I am the one who hurt you." "You did not hurt me. I hurt myself by trying to do something that should not have been done. I intended to enter your mind, to read your thoughts, to plant seeds of influence that would eventually bring your species under our control. You defended yourself simply by being what you are. There is no fault in that." "Told us about the manipulation," Lisa said carefully, "about what the collective does to other species." Nodded. "Is young and idealistic. She believes that honesty will serve us better than our old methods. Perhaps she is right." He paused and looked down at his hands. "I have been a High Ambassador for 300 years. I have performed the communion ritual more times than I can count. I have guided dozens of species into the fold of the collective. I believed I was helping them, showing them a better path. I told myself that our influence was gentle, that we were teachers rather than tyrants. And now I am no longer certain. When I touched your mind, Commander Grant, I experienced something I had never felt before. I experienced isolation. For one terrible moment, I understood what it means to carry everything alone, to have no collective to share the weight, to face the universe as a single point of consciousness surrounded by infinite darkness." Lisa felt an unexpected sympathy for him. She had never thought of her own existence as isolation. It was simply how things were. But hearing him describe it, she understood why it would seem terrifying to a being who had never known anything else. "You carry so much," continued. "The grief of losing your father still fresh after 30 years, the fear that you are not good enough, constantly gnawing at you even as you lead others, the love for your family, fierce and protective and absolute, the memories of failure and loss and pain, never fading, always present. And yet you function, you think clearly, you make decisions, you laugh and hope and dream. I do not understand how this is possible." "We do not have a choice," Lisa said simply. "We cannot share our burdens with others. We can only carry them ourselves." "But that is exactly what amazes me. You have no choice, and so you have become strong in ways we cannot imagine. Your species has evolved to contain storms within your skulls and still remain sane. You have turned isolation into resilience, pain into determination, grief into love. Leaned forward, and Lisa saw something in his eyes that she had not expected. It was respect. When I recovered consciousness, my advisors told me that humanity was a threat. They said that your minds were weapons that could destroy our telepaths. They urged me to recommend expulsion, to send your species back to your home sector and forbid any further contact. Some even suggested more extreme measures. But you disagreed. I disagreed, because I had seen something in your mind that they could not understand. I had seen beauty. He paused, searching for words. There is a moment in your memory when you held your nephew for the first time. The love you felt was overwhelming, terrifying in its intensity. But it was also the most beautiful thing I have ever experienced. I have touched thousands of minds, and I have never felt anything like it. Lisa thought about her nephew, about his small fingers wrapping around her thumb, about the promise she had made to protect him. She felt tears forming in her eyes and did not try to hide them. You feel everything so deeply, said softly. Joy and pain, love and fear, hope and despair. You hold it all inside you, and somehow it makes you more rather than less. It makes you human. What will you tell the council? Lisa asked. I will tell them the truth. I will tell them that humanity cannot be controlled and should not be controlled. I will tell them that your species represents something unprecedented in our history. For 10,000 years, we have had servants and subjects and tools. We have forgotten what it means to have equals. I will tell them that humanity can be that equal if we have the wisdom to accept you. And you think they will listen? Some will not. But I am the High Ambassador, and my voice carries weight. I nearly died touching your mind, and I am still here advocating for your species. That will mean something to them. Lisa stood and walked to the small window that overlooked the docking bay. Human and ships floated side by side in the vast space. Two different kinds of beings, two different ways of experiencing the universe. I need to understand something, she said without turning around. If you cannot control us, why would you want us as allies? What do we offer you? Rose and joined her at the window. He maintained a careful distance, but his presence was warm rather than threatening. You offer us truth. Every species we have influenced tells us what we want to hear because we have shaped their minds to want to please us. We have been surrounded by echoes of our own thoughts for. Humanity can tell us things we do not want to hear. You can challenge us, disagree with us, point out our mistakes. You can be partners who push us to be better rather than servants who confirm our assumptions. That does not sound pleasant for you. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. No, it does not. But I begin to think it is necessary. We have grown comfortable in our dominance, perhaps too comfortable. Perhaps we need minds we cannot read to remind us that the universe is larger and stranger than we have allowed ourselves to believe. The door opened behind them. A guard entered and bowed. High Ambassador, the council is assembled. They are ready to hear the matter of the humans. Turned to Lisa. Will you come with me? Will you speak to the council yourself? Lisa thought about her crew, about humanity, about the future that hung in the balance. She thought about storms and oceans and the weight of being alone. Yes, she said, I will speak. They walked together toward the Grand Assembly, two beings from impossibly different worlds, united by something neither of them fully understood. The Grand Assembly was everything Lisa had imagined and more. The chamber was massive, a dome of crystal that seemed to contain an entire artificial sky. Thousands of sat in rising tiers that circled the central platform. Their silver robes shimmered like starlight, and their shifting eyes all focused on the small human woman who walked beside their fallen High Ambassador. Lisa felt the weight of their attention. She understood now that many of them were telepaths, all connected to each other, all sharing their thoughts and impressions in real time. They could not read her mind, but they could certainly judge her by what they observed. She kept her back straight and her face calm. And Maria had been allowed to attend as observers. They sat in a small section reserved for non-visitors, surrounded by representatives from other species who had come to witness this unprecedented event. Word had spread quickly through the collective. The species that had brought down a High Ambassador with a single touch of minds was being judged today. A senior stepped forward to address the assembly. Her voice carried clearly through the vast space, amplified by technology Lisa could not see. We gather to decide the fate of the species called humanity. 3 days ago, High Ambassador attempted the communion ritual with their leader. The result was catastrophic. The High Ambassador suffered severe telepathic trauma and nearly died. We must now determine whether humanity represents a danger to the collective and how we should proceed. Several rose to speak. Some argued that humans were clearly dangerous and should be expelled immediately. Others suggested more cautious approaches, perhaps quarantine or restricted contact. A few even proposed studying humans to find ways to overcome their mental defenses. Lisa listened and felt her hope fading with each speaker. Then rose from his seat. The chamber fell silent. Whatever his physical condition, his authority was still absolute. "I thank my colleagues for their perspectives," he said. His voice was weaker than before, but it still commanded attention. "However, I believe they are missing something essential. They speak of humanity as a problem to be solved, a threat to be contained, an obstacle to be overcome. But I have touched a human mind. I have experienced what they are, and I tell you now that they are none of those things." He walked slowly to the center of the platform, each step careful and deliberate. "For 10,000 years, we have built our power on telepathic dominance. We have shaped the minds of other species to serve our purposes. We have told ourselves that this was wisdom, that we were guiding lesser beings toward enlightenment. But it was always control. It was always manipulation. And we have paid a price for it, a price so subtle that we did not notice it until now." The assembly stirred. This was not what they had expected to hear. "We have surrounded ourselves with servants who cannot challenge us," continued. "We have filled our lives with minds that echo our own thoughts back to us. We have forgotten what it means to encounter something truly different, truly other, truly equal. Humanity offers us that encounter." He turned and gestured toward Lisa. "This woman's mind contains oceans of emotion that we cannot fathom. Her species has evolved to carry weight that would crush any. They have turned isolation into strength, pain into determination, grief into love. They are not a threat to us. They are a mirror, showing us what we have lost in our pursuit of control." The senior who had opened the proceedings spoke. "With respect, High Ambassador, you nearly died. How can you advocate for the very beings who caused your injury?" "They did not cause my injury. I caused my own injury by trying to manipulate a mind that refused to be manipulated." Commander Grant defended herself simply by being human. "There was no aggression, no intention to harm. I reached into a storm expecting calm waters, and I suffered the consequences of my own arrogance." Turned back to the assembly. "I propose that humanity be accepted into the collective not as subjects or servants but as equals, full partners with full rights and full autonomy. Let them stand beside us by choice, not by manipulation. Let them tell us truths we do not want to hear. Let them be the allies we have never had." The chamber erupted in discussion. Telepaths shared thoughts at speeds no verbal communication could match. Lisa watched the swirl of silver robes and shifting eyes and wondered if she was witnessing the future being decided or merely the beginning of a longer debate. Then the senior raised her hand for silence. "The High Ambassador has made his recommendation. By tradition, the subject of judgment may also speak. Commander Grant, will you address the assembly?" Lisa had not prepared a speech. She had not expected to speak at all. But she walked to the center of the platform and looked up at the thousands of faces watching her. "I do not know much about your people," she began. "I have been in your space for only a few days. I have learned that you are powerful and ancient, and wise in ways that humanity cannot yet imagine. I have also learned that you have secrets, methods of control that you do not speak of openly. I understand why some of you see my species as a threat." She paused and gathered her thoughts. "But I want to tell you about humanity. We evolved alone. Our minds developed in isolation, each person carrying their own weight, their own pain, their own joy. We have no collective to share the burden. We face the universe as individuals, small and fragile and alone, and yet we have survived. We have built civilizations and crossed the void between stars. We have loved and lost and loved again. We have faced darkness and found light within ourselves." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. "High Ambassador says that our minds are storms. He is right. We contain storms because we must. There is no other way for us to be. But storms can be beautiful as well as dangerous. They bring rain that makes things grow. They clear away what is old and stale. They remind us that the universe is vast and powerful and worthy of awe." She looked directly at the senior. "We did not come here seeking conflict. We came seeking connection. We came because we are curious, because we want to know what is out there, because we believe that the universe is better when different kinds of beings learn to understand each other. If you send us away, we will survive. We have always survived, but I think we will both be for it." Lisa fell silent. She had said everything she could think to say. The assembly voted. It took less time than Lisa expected. When the result was announced, she felt his hand grip her shoulder and heard Maria's quiet gasp of relief. Humanity was accepted as equals. Afterward, Lisa stood at a viewing port with beside her. Human and ships moved in formation outside, practicing maneuvers together for the first time in history. It was a small beginning, but it was a beginning. "I will never fully understand your species," said quietly. "Your minds will always be storms I cannot enter, but I think that is as it should be. Mystery is precious. We have forgotten that in our long pursuit of knowledge and control." Lisa smiled. "We do not fully understand ourselves most days. We just keep moving forward, doing the best we can with what we have." "That is perhaps the most human thing you have said." They stood in comfortable silence, two representatives of impossibly different species, watching their peoples begin the long process of learning to work together. The universe was vast and strange and full of wonders, and now humanity had a place in it, not as servants or subjects, but as equals. The storm had found its harbor, the ocean had found its shore. And somewhere in the depths of space, new stories were waiting to be written.